at some certain points over the course of my career when I was learning something new, I realized I had to stop reading and learning and start doing.
Pizza and beer goes a long way.
Everyone's hoping someone is a prophet and will tell them what will be. But it's so chaotic that we're all just guessing.
Maybe it can empower people to be employed across the whole world. They can actually make a living from utilizing it. Welcome to Impressive Hosting, a podcast about the role hosting plays in shaping the open web. I'm your host, Jesse Friedman. On this show, we go deeper than uptime and dashboards. We talk about hosting as infrastructure, about ownership, independence, and what it takes to build ethical, high-end WordPress hosting that actually serves creators, businesses, and the internet itself. Before we dive in, head to impressive.host. That's where you can comment on episodes, ask follow-up questions, and help shape future conversations. You'll also find links to follow, like, and subscribe wherever you listen. Today, I am joined again by Miriam Schwab, head of WordPress at Elementor, and Casey, her dog. Hey, Casey.
Well, hello. Casey's always wanted to be on a podcast, so she's very excited.
As what we do here, we fulfill dreams. So,
Casey, thanks you. But now I'm gonna just put her at the door before she starts barking when she thinks there's a cat or something. So 1 second.
And while you do that, I'll just say that for everyone at home, this is episode 2 with Miriam. So we can, I suggest go back and listen to episode 1 because we had such a great conversation. We talked about Elementor. We talked about Miriam's past. We talked about Angie, the AI tool that lives inside of Elementor. We talked about agencies and how people are using Elementor to build websites as implementers, maybe not as developers. We covered a lot in the first episode. So it's definitely a good listen. And for anybody who's paying attention, I'm actually not at my normal space. I'm actually in New York today because I'm giving a talk later tonight, having a fireside chat with Hillary Mason, the co-founder and CEO of Hidden Door. It's an AI card game tool thing. And so I'm at the NoHo Automatic Lounge today. So that's why things are looking a little different for me.
Sounds so cool, I have to say. All of that, the context, the people, okay. Anyways, that sounds amazing.
Well, it's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, so we left off talking about how my wife had built a website using Elementor to showcase her book, and that someone who had designed a website or designed a theme for authors was using Elementor as a dependency, and I found that interesting. And then I'm thinking about that person as an implementer, as a designer, but we also talked about agencies and the importance of agencies towards providing a good experience for WordPress and everything else. But I'm curious from your perspective, Miriam, someone who's been around the WordPress community for a long time, hosts, agencies, all this stuff. Why do you think there's such a push these days for hosting companies to work with agencies directly? It seems like everybody's developing an agency program and doing things to appeal to agencies. What is the draw there? Is it money? Is it something else? What do you think's going on?
So as a former agency owner, part of me is finally, agencies totally deserve attention. I mean, they're the ones that keep building websites with particular platforms, and they should be embraced and recognized. And from in every ecosystem or even society, there's statuses, people with higher status, lower status, and agencies were never a high status type of player in the industry, just in terms of perception. But if we want an industry or a business to keep thriving, then we need to embrace the people and the companies and the organizations that keep building over and over with our products. So I feel like everyone is late to the game. By the way, that kind of includes us. We know that a lot of our users are agencies, and we've always had good lines of communication with them and supported them whenever we can, but we actually didn't have a proper agency program until now. Now we have this program that we just launched called our Partners Program, which I recommend that people building with Elementor check out. They might as well. I think it has some benefits for them. But part of it is, I think, for businesses, when they launch an agency program, there's obviously an economic aspect to it, which is encouraging these companies to keep building with the platform. But it just makes a lot of sense. Agencies really are our partners. I think Elementor is right when they called it a partner program. they're our partners. They're the ones who use our product, put it out there over and over again, give us feedback, help us improve it. Um, and I'm just glad to see that they're being recognized like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's something that's been around for a while with different hosts. I mean, Automatic's had something for a long time. Bluehost has had a agency program for well over, I think, 2 years now. But I feel like there's definitely a shift towards identifying agencies as you're right, like an economic benefit to the hosting company because a lot of money is spent by agencies and their clients, but also from the perspective of being able to listen. We had Corey Miller on from hosting.com, and he was talking about how they have this agency program that's comes with a webinar series and like open office hours where they're having agencies come and ask questions, and that they do that for free. Like it's not something, you don't have to be a customer of hosting.com. You don't have to be paying for services. You can just come and ask questions of experts and get some feedback. And I think what that does is it creates a very like trusted two-way line of communication where you're answering their questions, but you're also learning about the things that they're struggling with, which allows you to make a better product. And it's funny because I'm often pushing for hosting companies and others to think about the fact that while the WordPress community is made up of passionate people, oftentimes, developers, agency owners, things like that. But that makes a small subset of the total users around the world who are using WordPress, right? Like the vast majority of WordPress users are not agency owners by any means. But there is something really magical about building something in a way that an agency owner can use it and have the benefits of that trickle down to the DIYers. And agencies are going to be able to give you feedback better than probably any DIYer will ever be able to, because they can articulate what it is that they need better than somebody who's trying to learn the software while they're also building on it. So how are you actually listening to agencies in Elementor? Are you like having webinars? Are you have open lines of communication? Like how is the communication actually funneling back to you?
So it's not at the moment, it's not like incredibly structured, but as part of the partners program, it's becoming more structured. But until now, it's been that we have relationships with them, and they can talk to us in various ways, give us
Yeah.
feedback. They can open GitHub issues. They can reach out to our support. We have shared Slack channels with a lot of different organizations, and so, some of them are agencies.
It sounds like
Um,
you're where they are, right? Like it's like you're making it accessible to them to give feedback in the wherever they are or whatever tools they want to use.
that's what we're trying to do. Um, Agencies play a very strong role in the decision making of the companies who are their clients, like an outsized role. The companies that hire them are trusting them not only to build their site, but to make technical decisions. So if an agency is like, your site should be WordPress and or your site should have Elementor, that company will be like, yes, please. There's very little pushback on that because the agency is the expert. Um, so, it's really good to support them. And then of course also hear their feedback. A lot of agency feedback revolves around their workflows, which I can relate to from my agency days also, because they're managing many sites. Their projects are time-based. So every minute that they're not spending actually building a site is costing them. So they want to be efficient and they don't want friction. They don't want anything that will like cost them extra time. So so a lot of it is around workflows, which is really interesting and definitely also deserves support.
Yeah. That's really great feedback. What's interesting is when you and I see each other in events or something, someone will say something like, "Oh, this is everybody knows Jesse, or Jesse knows everybody, or vice versa." And I'm like, "Listen, here's the thing. I don't even compare to Miriam. Miriam knows everybody, and everybody knows Miriam." But I'm curious, like, are you personally forming relationships with agencies? I feel like you would, right? I feel like you have, and sometimes it's a lot easier than just a form, right? It's like, or like a GitHub issue or whatever. It's just to have that actual tangible relationship where you can call someone up or they can email you or whatever. Like, I would imagine you're doing that pretty effectively. Is that how it is for you at these conferences and stuff?
Not enough. I realized recently that so I do know a lot of people in the WordPress space, and I love knowing all these people. And I, you know, I learn a lot from everyone, and I just also just generally appreciate knowing all sorts of people. I love it, and I feel privileged
Yeah,
about that. But I realized at one of the last work camps that I was at, it might have been I think it was in Portland. For some reason, it dawned on me that I don't know enough people at agencies. I know the people at the agencies that are always top of mind, the larger ones that are like, let's say, WordPress VIP partners and those types. And
sure.
I'm very friendly with them and connected with them. Then I realized there's this whole like section of agencies that aren't them, that are building a lot of sites and high quality sites, and I don't know who they are. They're harder to know. At least they're harder to know through the conference circuit, which makes sense because if you're an agency, again, every minute you're not working on sites costs you. So it's very hard to justify the cost of the travel, the accommodation, and the time away from your work. Now, if I had the chance to talk to them, I would tell them that I built my career, including my agency, around events. Like I didn't start going to events from the start. The first international WordPress event that I was able to go to was WordCamp Europe, the first one in Leiden, way back when, and it was a game changer for me. And um, it's agencies. I don't know. Maybe this is something that we can impart to them as part of our programs, but the value of like in-person relationships, yes, it doesn't pay the bills at the moment. And in the, and actually you don't know if it will ever, have any kind of economic impact, but it can truly impact how your agency develops and grows. And it also impacts how people see you as an authority and a trustworthy figure. But the ROI is it's not quantifiable. So they don't come enough. And so then I don't meet them there. And it's something that I've been like thinking about, how can I improve that? And so I've had the chance to meet more agencies since then, but it does demand more of an effort,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah. But sometimes it's a lot easier than cutting through all the bureaucracy and all the other stuff that you have to get through to just form a relationship with someone. It's funny because one of the things I did with WP Cloud is if you go to the WP Cloud website, my phone number is on the contact page.
Oh, really?
And yeah.
That's
And so
amazing.
people were like, you're crazy. You're going to get inundated with phone calls. It's going to be a bunch of stuff that you're never going to hear and all this other thing. And so, in fact, it's actually kind of nice because my phone is not ringing all the time. I think people are actually, despite the fact that my face is on it and I'm like, this is really me, I think people still think that it's going to go to like some recording or something like that. So I'm not inundated yet. This might change everything. I don't know. We'll see. But like it allows for people to just give me a phone call and like just call me and cut through everything else and just say, tell me about WP Cloud, And so I think there's some massive amount of value in a hosting company because we're talking on this podcast, we're talking to hosting companies, right? Just developing those relationships with your customers, right? Like, and we talk about this a lot. It's aligning yourself with the success of your customers. But how do you do that if you don't know what success means to them? So getting out to those conferences and meeting them where they are, whether it's, going to a big WordCamp. And like you said, that's a big investment for an agency because it's not just the money, the plane ticket and the hotel and all that, but it's the time away from their desk. It's non-billable hours. And that's how agencies work, right? Like, how many hours do they have at that desk that they can bill, and that's how they pay their employees. That's how they do everything. But maybe it's not going to a conference. Then maybe it's finding out where they are and going and meeting with them and actually saying like, hey, can I show up at your studio and see how you work? And I think
Yeah.
that's an underrated, underutilized methodology in meeting your customer base. But, a lot of hosting companies, a lot of big companies like Elementor, Automatic, we have the means to go do this. We just need to be willing to do it. And I
Yeah.
think that's an interesting lesson.
Yeah. It is interesting. It's hard to scale that. What
Sure.
the CloudFest conferences, the recent one in Germany and the upcoming one, actually, and last year, I think the one in the States as well, they actually put a strong focus on agencies. And I don't know technically what they did, but they made it very appealing and accessible for agencies to come to their conferences because they
Right.
know that all of us want to talk to them. And
Yeah.
so they want to bring us value. And so
Yeah.
they figured out some way to draw more agencies. And maybe other types of events can do that as well, so that
Yeah.
it's win-win. I mean, agencies, I think, would benefit from being at these types of events and meeting people. And then, of course, the hosting companies and other companies who want to meet them would have an easier way to do it. So it was just interesting to me that they focused in such a like a determined way on making sure that agencies can come, not just
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, agencies come," but they help them in some way. So maybe we can
Right.
see more of that.
I think you're absolutely right that that idea may not scale, but at the same time, I think one of the things that we underestimate is how much you can learn just from a singular conversation. In the days when I used to build products, um, it's always really helpful to, of course, suck in data while people are using it, especially at scale. But one of the things I used to do is actually sit at a Starbucks and buy a bunch of Starbucks gift cards and just say, hey, if you want your coffee on me, just come down and come sit with me real quick and just try to fill out this form or, launch this thing or whatever. Right. And it would be 5-10 minutes of their time and they'd get a free coffee out of it.
That's
But
a
I
good
would actually
idea.
learn, I would learn very quickly from them, like what the struggle was. And the funny thing was, is that I didn't need to do that 50 times. I didn't need to do it 100 times, 2 or 3 times. And you actually gain so much information from those experiences that you can apply it to your product and make it so much better. And I think that that's something that hosting companies can benefit from in learning about their agencies and trying to get into that space. Is like, you don't need to have 1,000 relationships. Like, it's good to pull in that data at scale while they're using your product. But having a couple good, strong relationships and beta testers and people who can try your products out early it's probably enough to like make a significant difference and a major impact in the product that you're actually producing.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're right. It doesn't have to be huge numbers. And now you're making me think. So, um, I organize a local meetup in our office, a WordPress meetup. We do it once a quarter. I can't handle more than that. It's already like a thing, but,
Yeah.
but once a quarter I can do, and it draws web builders of different kinds, whether they're like doing it like solo or they're part of agencies. And that's a way to get access to these types of people. That's not why we were doing the meetups. I didn't actually know who was going to start showing up, but we give talks. We have people come in and give talks, and the questions are from people who are like truly sitting and building. And so they're interesting questions. And then also, we can talk to them and be like, how are things going? What are you using? What do you like? What do you don't like? So I guess, companies that want more contact with agencies could do like local, like at the very least, wherever you are, there's going to be people building websites.
Right.
And that you could just invite them over. We give them pizza and beer. We give them
And
some
pizza
good
and beer goes a
talks.
long way.
Big draw. Like,
Yeah.
people will show up for pizza and beer and they love it.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, these are different ways to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very true. So you're traveling more than most, I think, in the industry. How many weeks or days are you on the road in a year
So
now?
last year was like my record breaking year. It doesn't sound like it's so much, but I traveled last year internationally 9 times. For me that was a lot. It was a lot.
That is a
It
lot.
was
That is a lot.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like it was a lot. I would like come back and like kind of rest and then get up and go again. And
Yeah.
often it's like, oh, going from here to the West Coast just finishes me off. And I had a few of
Yeah.
those last year. Um, so yeah, but this year because of the war, our airspace was closed. So I literally didn't have an option. I was supposed to go to CloudFest and speak and WordCamp Asia and speak. Didn't go to either. Our team from overseas filled in both places and did an amazing job. WordCamp Asia was really nice. The organizers, they let me give my talk remotely. So at least I
Yeah.
got to be part of it that way. So this
It's
year
nice.
I haven't traveled at all, which I have to say, it's actually been pretty nice for me. But I'm very much looking forward to going to WordCamp Europe. I really hope that works out. I'm excited. I miss everyone. I really want to like reconnect with the WordPress community, and yeah, I'm excited about that.
So It's really interesting because I know what it feels like to be forced home. And so at first it's challenging and stressful. And you're like, oh my God, so much of my life is about travel. But then it's
Yes.
like, oh, wait a minute. Like I can breathe. I can build
Yeah.
routines at home. I can get a lot of stuff done. But I'm curious, when you're traveling, I'm sure that in all of the time that you're spending out there, you're learning from agencies, hosts, product developers, whatever it might be. What are some common themes that you see that are worth noting that traverse no matter where they are based geography, based in geography? I don't know what I'm trying to say. Well,
Geographically. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
geographically, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Versus like what are some things that you have seen that are like hyper specific to a specific location?
Interesting question. So actually, I guess our industry is dynamic enough that every time or period of time, there's a different theme that's concerning people. Definitely now it's AI. Like,
Yep.
sorry to come back to it. It's like the most overused term, but like there's
Right.
people are very interested and worried.
Right.
Interested and worried, want to know what we're doing about it, want to try to get our insights. Everyone's hoping someone is a prophet and will tell them what will be.
Yeah.
But like it's so chaotic that we're all just guessing. I feel like we're trying to make as educated guess as possible, but whatever we're doing now is just it's usually you plan based on history or past and context, but that's totally been upended. So we're all just trying to figure out. So AI is definitely something. Um, we
Yeah. So it doesn't
definitely
matter if you're from South America, Africa, Asia, or whatever. AI is top of mind.
top of mind. Either will it replace me and make me irrelevant, and I'll become obsolete, and the bots will take over, or will it give me more capabilities and will it help me thrive? And if so, how do I do that? Because there's so many options out there. Even if you're just using Claude, every second there's something new. Now there's Claude Design and there's Claude Routines, and then there's Claude Code and there's Claude Desktop, Claude Cowork, and there's Claude. Like, and then there's plugins. I mean, I could just talk for half an hour, but all the different things you need to know about and skills. Oh my gosh, agents. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna stop. Anyways, so people are like desperate to know all the stuff, but also like make a decision and go with something. And we all are. I'm the same. So that's top of mind everywhere. There's no question. I think all of us in the industry are doing our best to bring tools that help people do their jobs better rather than replace
Yeah.
them. I think that's really
Mhm.
the approach. I think in the end, that's probably how a lot of AI will roll out in general. It's not, you know, there might be less hires of a certain type or whatever, but at the moment, not necessarily about replacing people. It's about augmenting them. And so we're all trying to figure out how do we do more with it. So that's the same
Yeah.
in WordPress, and that's like part of what we're trying to get across, that AI isn't here to replace you. The human in the loop is super important, and I truly believe that. I believe that as I use AI, I see how much Claude needs me as much as I need it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's the
Oh,
same with Angie and everything.
I think there's a real fallacy in the way in which people interpret how effective a single prompt is.
Oh yeah,
Like, I think people are thinking about AI like, oh, that was written by AI. Well, okay, maybe it was written by AI, but if it's actually a good read, it means that someone put a lot of time and effort into it. And if somebody's putting their name on it and they're a person of integrity, then, you might feel a little bit more comfortable with the fact that like maybe they were using it to like accelerate it or polish it or something along those lines. But I think there's this mentality that they think like, oh, I just wrote 3 sentences and then I pumped, and then this article just went straight to from that prompt to fully live. Right. And I think that's a complete fallacy. I think there's still a ton of work that's going into it, and there's a lot of human touch to it. And I think the idea that AI is going to replace everybody. I mean, the problem is that we are seeing like these layoffs happening in these major corporations that have hundreds of thousands of employees. You know what I mean? Like, and so it paints this picture of like economic downturn and everybody's going to be losing their job and everything else. But I think the reality of the situation is that in fact, it's just a new phase that we're all kind of living in, and that you have to adopt AI to accelerate your own work. Like we talked earlier in the first episode about like building like a staff of employees that are AI agents. Now, you aren't replacing your employees with AI because you don't have any direct reports. You mentioned that yourself, right? Like, but now all of a sudden you do have direct reports that are AI agents. Like these are not AI agents that replaced people. They're just orchestrating tasks on your behalf and kind of like lifting you up to do more, or maybe make more work for you, because we talked about that too. But I think there is something there. I think that we have to kind of get our heads around what is actually happening, and that like it's not just like this what we see in the media, right? That like AI is like creating an apocalyptic economic event. So I don't know, who knows, right? Because like we also said too, like everything's changing in a period of months. So anyways,
Yeah.
so that's part one. Part two, like what are some things that you see in some very specific areas? Like top of mind for me is like, oh, it's always like price sensitivity and geographic locations. But what else is there? Like, what have you seen in your travels?
I find the Asia region to be really interesting. Um, and I am really sorry that I had to miss WordCamp Asia, because I love connecting with the community there, because they're so passionate and enthusiastic still. In different areas, people have become cynical. And I understand why, but it's really fun to be around people who are just so excited and hungry to learn still. And that's the Asia region. And in India, we have a very, very large enthusiastic user base. At the same time, very few of them pay us for our premium products. So, but enough of them do that it's like, from business perspective, an area that is interesting, and that, but I find that we get the most amazing feedback and input from our users there. They're very heavy users who are very smart and doing very interesting things. And I love hearing from them. Our team there collected such interesting feedback from the users there, and they're just hungry to learn more and do better, and go further with our products and with WordPress in general. So, so I really, that's a very interesting region to me in terms of like the ecosystem and the community and learning and connecting. I love it.
I had dinner with Raul from RT Camp, and he was telling me that, they RT Camp is an agency developer company. They do a whole bunch of stuff. They build a white label panel for WP Cloud, so it's we can provide like turnkey hosting to any company that wants to provide hosting overnight. So RT Camp is doing a ton of stuff, and he was telling me about how many people apply from India to work at RT Camp. It's in the tens of thousands a year. It's
Whoa.
crazy.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
obviously they can't hire everybody. And so he took the time to think about like how he can make an impact on his local community while trying to sift through all of the people that he's hiring. And so they ended up developing like a training system that acts as like a
Wow.
litmus test to say like, hey, if you can pass this training, then great. You kind of further yourself through the application process. If you can't pass this training, then take the training. And then all of a sudden, like now he's like empowering his local community to do so much more in this space. And, in the first episode, we talked about how you had a conversation with someone who was able to use Elementor to take their mom on a trip, and you're empowering them to make a living. And like, and it's so great to see like RT Camp is kind of doing the same thing. Like they're developing this training. It's WordPress focused. Like you're empowering these people to create a living and do more. So like, even if they don't get the job at RT Camp, like maybe they're gaining the skills to get a job somewhere else. But the really cool thing is that like, and this might sound, a little ignorant, but like all you need is a laptop and you can build a living. Like, and maybe a laptop isn't accessible to everybody in India. Okay. But actually, while I was there, I noticed that a lot of people have a smartphone. And if you look at like Android's most recent development, I don't know if you've seen this, but like Android 10 now allows your phone to act as a desktop. So you
No
can
way.
like hook up your phone to a monitor, and you can do a whole bunch of stuff on it. For
So
like
cool.
I have a $30 keyboard that I keep with me that folds into nothing, and I can keep it in my back pocket. And now I'm able to type and do a whole bunch of stuff. And with AI, there's so much that I can do just on my phone and a little keyboard. And in fact, I don't really even need a keyboard. I can just use my voice and talk to
Right.
AI. I can do so much. So it's really interesting to see, we're talking about AI, the fear of AI eliminating jobs, but in fact, maybe it can empower people to be employed across the whole world. Like they can actually make a living from utilizing it.
WordPress from the start. I mean, why was I able to build a career off WordPress? Because the startup costs are very low. Yes, you need a computer, and we can't belittle that, but
Right.
you don't really need anything else. And so I was able to just start, playing around with it, learning. I had internet access and a laptop, and that's all I needed. So the startup costs are really low. And so in different regions, that is a huge boost. Um, there's another founder of a company. His name is Sagar Patel, from a company called Postmith, and he built a lot of products around Elementor, actually, like add-ons and extensions, and he's done very well with it. And he also, it's really touching. Like he also, like Rahul, feels very grateful for his position and wishes he could do more. And he loves all the people he can hire. He can't hire everyone, and so also he's found different ways to give back to his community and things like that. And the people who are empowered through open source tools like ours to build themselves up, build a business, and then support others by hiring them, and then support the communities. It's an amazing thing that has a very broad impact. And AI could be very much the next natural evolution of that. It makes a lot of sense, giving people more capabilities to build more things to hopefully, empower them and others. So we'll see how it plays out. But I like to be optimistic and think that that's where it's going. I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. All right, we're almost at time here. I just want to say one thing. I was at WordCamp Asia, and one of the nice things was is that a whole bunch of people were coming up to me, and a lot of them were students and people just getting started with their careers, but they were using WordCamp Asia as like a springboard to try and network and meet people and things like that. We mentioned before that you've been in WordPress for a long time. You've been a woman in tech for a long time in what is predominantly a male dominated industry, right? Like, I'm curious if, just to leave off this episode on like a high note, like what advice would you give to someone who's just getting started today? And it can be, answering anything specific or broadly, but like, what advice would you impart on somebody who's trying to get started in this world and looking for a little bit of advice on how to get started? I don't know.
Um, a lot of the learning is on you. You have to sit and learn. There's no way around it. But hopefully you're excited and passionate about it enough that you will. That's what I did in the beginning. I was so excited about WordPress. I would sit for hours reading and learning and building. Definitely build. Don't just read. At some like certain points over the course of my career, when I was learning something new, I realized I had to stop reading and learning and start doing. There's no better
Yeah.
learning than doing.
Yep.
But one of the great ways to build your career in WordPress, and I think we're fortunate that WordPress is like this, is that as you build, share your knowledge. It
Yes.
People really appreciate it. I learned by people sharing their knowledge, and so I would start writing posts about what I learned, and people appreciate that. But it's also a good way for people to get to know you and to stand out. And you might think it goes kind of against the grain to think, well, I just learned something. I should keep that knowledge to myself because it's valuable. But actually, in an open source ecosystem, sharing your knowledge is valuable, and helps others and can also help you. So I encourage people to learn, make mistakes, break things, mess things up, and then learn from that and share your learnings with others. And then we all build ourselves up together. But it can really help you with your career. And for women, I highly, highly recommend that you find speaking engagements. You can start small, you can
Yes.
start local, wherever. And I know they say the people are more afraid of speaking publicly than death or something like that.
Right,
Which,
right, right.
you
They're
know,
the world's worst fear. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I totally get it. I was terrified at the beginning, but it's also a really good way. Share your knowledge through talking, speaking, public speaking. People will get
Yeah.
to know you. And in general, it's good to learn how to do that because in the end, even AI can't take this away from us. We're communicators. It's about how we communicate with each other. And if you can, learn to do that, and it's okay if you don't do it well in the beginning, you'll get better as
Yeah.
you do it. Then that helps in that way as well. So put yourself out there. I know it's hard, but and don't feel stupid. Like you might be like, oh, I'm sharing my knowledge that I made this mistake and I did this. Believe me, if you did it, other people did it, and they also
Yeah.
want to know how to solve this issue. There's no such thing as a stupid mistake. Actually, mistakes are the best. They're the best way to learn, and it helps people connect with you as well. So, anyways, that's just some advice. I hope it's helpful.
That's actually really, really great advice. I mean, there's so much value in sharing your knowledge, as you said, but I think it also, that vulnerability and being honest about what you're dealing with and what you're struggling with, it creates a layer of trust between you and whoever's listening. And it actually reinforces the behavior we want, which is that everybody's working together. As you said, we're all kind of lifting each other up. I mean, I wouldn't be here myself, actually, if I didn't get involved in the WordPress community and do all the, listen to what other people had to say and take their advice. And I think I'll just add one thing to what you said, which is that if you are afraid of public speaking, there's probably no better place to try it out than a WordCamp, because it is like 80% of the speakers are like first time speakers trying to get started themselves. So like the audience is going to be really, appreciative that you're there. They're going to be very graceful. They're going to give you a lot of grace. They're not going to like throw bottles at you
No,
and tomatoes when you screw up, right? They're going to be very supportive. So
yeah,
awesome
totally.
advice, Miriam. Miriam, thank you so much for joining the show. And I look forward to having you back. I can't wait to see you again in person.
Me too. And thank you for having me. This was a fun conversation.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Impressive Hosting, where we uncover the core tenets of great WordPress hosting. Do you have a follow-up question for today's guest, thought or comment on anything we talked about, a future guest suggestion, a hosting horror story? What do you think makes great WordPress hosting? All your comments shape this show. Drop them on impressive.host. We also appreciate you following us on social media and subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. Finally, do check out our list of open source projects that need support at impressive.host. Whether it's code, community, or cache, you can make a difference. See you next time.